Welcome to the Reel to Reel podcast, where the stories behind the board go on record. I'm your host, Bruce Hensal, and we're here to give you an insider's look at the music industry. I'm joined by my co-host, Chase, from the Melrose audio team, and this month's guests, Jim Abbott and the Sauce Boss, Bill Wharton. We're in 4 separate locations, including the audio studio in the Melrose Center at the Orlando Public Library. The first of today's guests is Jim Abbott. Jim's a singer, songwriter, journalist, music critic, and all-around good guy. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, Bruce. Thanks for the opportunity. It's great to see and hear you. I'm glad all the technology's working. That's terrific.
Yeah. In these strange times, this is what we got here.
It is.
So, Jim, I first became aware of you when you were the music critic with the Orlando Sentinel. And I think that I sat behind you at a Here Come the Mummies show at the Plaza Theater.
Yeah, well, that I don't know whether that is good or bad or whatever, but yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in that job as the music critic at the Sentinel for about 15 years. I worked about 27 years at the Sentinel altogether, and the majority of that, happily for me, was in entertainment-related writing, and then sort of was able to work my way into what was my dream job, of being what I imagine the glorified version of Cameron Crowe in Orlando, would be, So yeah, it was just a wonderful opportunity for me that I'll never forget, obviously. So, yeah.
Well, great. And I understand I've heard some of the tunes from our mutual friend, Tim Kelleher, playing them for me. Some of you have a string band called the Simple Cavemen.
Right? Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it all sort of ties in. I mean, the way I got into, ended up being a music critic. I mean, I grew up in South Florida in a family that was steeped in music. My dad was a musician, a saxophone player, not professionally, but certainly very actively as an avocation. And I started playing in school bands. I was a brass player, a trumpet and French horn player in 4th grade, played in bands all the way through college, and along the course of that, in a lot of garage bands where I picked up guitar and other instruments. And so music had been and continues to be kind of a lifelong distraction for me that eventually I was able to turn into a vocation in the music job. But as part of that, I spent about 20 years that I've been playing with these group of friends. And it started out as innocently as meeting together every Friday or Saturday night on my buddy's back porch, just a couple of guys with guitars. And since then, we've evolved, as the cavemen might, into something where we play a couple times a month, primarily out at Yalaha Bakery. And in our imaginations, we envision ourselves as a cross between the band, of the 1960s fame, and the bluegrass side of the Grateful Dead. And we do an assortment of kind of, not so much obvious covers, but do an assortment of covers and a lot of original songs. And it's been that also has been one of the great joys of my life, being involved with these guys and doing this.
Well, great. I'd like to take a listen to one of the tunes. I believe it's called Holiday Moon.
Horizon Moon, yeah.
Horizon Moon, yeah. Sorry, my fault.
No worries.
Horizon Moon, Horizon Moon, fills the sky, but gone too soon. And you don't know
that your careless love is like the horizon moon to me.
That was the Simple Cavemen with Horizon Moon. Bill, you said you're playing quite regularly, couple times a month now.
Yeah, we've been Yalaha Bakery. If you don't know of it, anyone in Central Florida, is sort of one of the hidden gems in rural Lake County. It's near Howey in the Hills. It's a little bit of a day trip, but it's a beautiful drive, and they have music in the beer garden courtyard there every Saturday and Sunday year round. And we have been playing there regularly in the spring and fall for, more than 10 years, I guess, and it's become our home away from home. And in the past year, with all the strangeness that's going on, it's been a really fortunate for us that we've been able to maintain that as a regular place to play out and do so safely. I mean, they keep people socially distanced outside, and they're diligent about the mask rules, and we spread out a little bit on the stage, and so it's just been a real happy thing that we're able to keep doing that. And it's because I know a lot of people that play in bands at whatever level obviously they're having a real hard time finding places to do it. So we've somehow been able to keep doing that.
That's fortunate. Chase, you got any questions for Jim?
I don't know. Yeah, I have very curious about how it's been as far as performing lately. I mean, do you feel like, I guess, I don't know how long ago did you guys actually start performing again? Like, how was that as far as transitioning back from maybe not doing it at all, or, what kind of challenges were there with that?
Well, I have to emphasize that we're a very casual band. Everybody in the band has, day jobs, and we are not, 100% working musicians, so we don't sort of, we're able to do this as a quasi kind of leisure activity. But we were really fortunate in that the bakery, as I mentioned, is set up outside, and they have decent crowds on the weekends, but it's not a mosh pit situation by any stretch. It's pretty laid back to begin with, and they shut down the music for a few months when everything was at the height of it, in the spring and earlier in the year. But I think by summertime they had sort of started bringing it back, and we have had to change the way we do things. We have spread out a lot. We got 5 guys in the band, and usually we're almost in each other's laps when we're up on this gazebo stage, but we have spread out to put some of the guys up on the stage and some of the guys on the deck, on the floor out in front, and spread out so we can stay more than 6 feet apart, which is, we made some adjustments to it, but in all, we've been very fortunate in the limited level that we do this to be able to keep doing it, and I would say, that it's just a real, in terms of stress relief, it doesn't get much better. I mean, anybody that's been involved in playing music knows how rewarding it is. And so it's been real important to us to be able to keep doing it. And we're very pleased that we've been able to.
That's great. And being musicians, you do adapt. I'm married to one, so I know the truth of that.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank you, Jim, for giving us this opportunity to visit with you. And please welcome the Sauce Boss, Bill Wharton. Bill's a singer, songwriter, musician, chef, horticulturist, entrepreneur, raconteur, gourmet, and philanthropist. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. My pleasure. It's been a while. You and I interfaced, I believe, in 1989 at Pegasus Recording Studios in Tallahassee. I had cut a sort of a sampler record of the Tallahassee music scene, and we'd put out a call. We had some sponsors, a music store and a radio station, and I chose one of your songs and recorded it, called since become fairly famous. I believe it was in the Jonathan Demme movie, Let the Big Dogs Eat. So a little later, I'm going to play that. But right now, I'd
Great.
like to talk to you about Planet Gumbo. That is one of your projects and please give our audience a sort of an explanation of your entire oeuvre, I guess is the correct word.
Okay, that's a good one. Well, for about the time that we were doing that thing in '89, I had this hot sauce that I would carry around to the gigs with me and hawk it off the stage. It's called Liquid Summer Hot Sauce. And I decided to make a pot of gumbo to kind of showcase how good this stuff was. Made with the daddle pepper that's extremely flavorful. And anyway, it kind of evolved into this thing where I've done shows, all my shows, I've been cooking gumbo for people and feeding everybody in the audience. And we did, I guess, well over 200,000 bowls later, here we are, okay? But a while back, I was spooning out this gumbo all the time to these people, and I said, there's got to be some kind of way that I can put some energy back into these communities that I am playing in. And so I incorporated this thing. When I'm out on the road, I will have a day off occasionally, and instead of just sitting in my room watching television or whatever, or, I would go to a homeless shelter and I would play my music and make gumbo for people in soup kitchens and homeless shelters. And I guess that was 12, 13 years ago. And I played homeless shelters all over the country, a couple in Canada, one in France. And it's just a kind of thing of, I just feel extremely fortunate to be able to play my music. And so I just want to share it with people. And Planet Gumbo, you can find us at planetgumbo.org on the web, is the organization that supports me. That it'll buy the ingredients and get me to a homeless shelter gig. And I'm the, I guess you'd say, the director of Planet Gumbo. And for me, it's a totally volunteer thing. I don't get a salary or anything. I just want to put a little back, And so it's really opened up a whole lot of experiences for me that it opened my eyes in a lot of ways. And so in addition to doing this, we try to open up everybody else's eyes with it. And we try to use it as a vehicle to have people aware, make people aware of the real deal on the ground homeless shelter situation. There's homeless people they are not all deadbeats. They're families, children, veterans, and in this pandemic, it's only gotten worse. And so, although I have not been out performing, my first tour or whatever I'm doing is I'm going to hit the road and play homeless shelters between here and California and back. And I'll probably book a few gigs, but it'll definitely be a last minute thing, because as soon as I'm able to go out, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's just part of what I do, it's part of my day.
I think that's a marvelous thing, and it's an incredible way to give back. And I got to say, Liquid Summer is the bomb. It's one of the best hot sauces I've ever had.
Yeah, I never would have done this, except, what happened was I had this hot sauce and all my friends would come over to my house and then we'd eat up all my hot sauce. I'm talking about a lot of hot sauce, okay? Like I'd make a couple of gallons and in a couple of weeks it would be gone. So I said, well, if these people are going to come to my house and eat up all my hot sauce, I'm going to put a label on it and sell it. And so I started carrying it around to the gigs, and all of a sudden I was a sauce boss. And so it's kind of the way that I do my life, I just do things and things happen. So, I'm not a hot sauce mogul. I'm a guy like the guy selling hot boiled peanuts on the side of the road, basically.
Yep. Well, I think that, your reputation precedes you in that regard. So, Jim, you got any questions for Bill?
Yeah. And first of all, I just want to tell you, Bill, how enjoyable it's been for me over the years. I've been to maybe, a good half a dozen of your shows, and I was fortunate enough to get a chance to talk with you for the Sentinel early in the 90s. I think one of the shows I went to, the old Junkyard in Orlando with Carrie Bell, the famed harmonica man, was on the bill, and Bruce, I think our buddy Tim Kelleher was in the house band, is my memory.
Was in the house band, right?
But anyway, and I can attest to, and it gladdens my heart to hear what your plans are. My question, I guess, was going to be how you were adapting to this, because what you do, even more so than anybody, that you can't get on a Zoom call and serve people gumbo. You have a very interactive kind of show that you do, and I was wondering how you were adapting to that, and because
well, I'm not really playing out at this time. I'm kind of at the age where I just need to be a little careful about all this situation, and that's why what I'm doing is writing, and I'm building a studio right next to my house, which is basically kind of a fancy jamming shack. It's that's unbelievable sound, and it's just a joy to play there. And it's not quite done, but I have played some music in it, and we're working on it. And I have been getting ready for, there's a movie coming out. Well, it's already out on pay-per-view, but on the 3rd of January, it will air on CNN. And the movie's called Jimmy Carter, Rock and Roll President. And it's kind of the thing that all the musicians, like the Allman Brothers, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Marshall Tucker, I could go on. The list is very long. All these guys did benefits and basically made it so that Jimmy Carter had enough money to buy ads on Monday after the shows on the weekends. And basically, they put him in the White House. And my music is in the score. And I've been working with my daughter, Mary, who is the director. And it's been getting rave reviews. And so that's kind of the way I've been spending my time. I'm releasing an album, it's called Peanuts. And it's like I was saying earlier, I have humble beginnings like Jimmy Carter did, though I do not ever want to compare myself to someone of such stature, okay? But I'm like a guy selling peanuts by the side of the road. And so, but I have garnered some pretty cool stuff from it, and I've written some great tunes. The tune Let the Big Dog Eat that Bruce was talking about was #1 on the Roots Music Report for 12 weeks when Albert Castiglia recorded it a couple of years ago. And it's been around. A lot of people have done it, and And also, the score that I did for the movie was awarded Best Musical Score by the Los Angeles Film Awards.
Wow.
So it's, you know, from modest kind of things, I'm able to do my thing, and I'm a happy guy, you know. So that's kind of how I'm dealing with it. I'm having a great time, although I do miss playing out, but it's been kind of nice because, you know, those 20-hour rides can get a bit tiresome occasionally. And I'm able to do my gardening and just kind of hang at the hacienda for a few minutes before I can go back out.
Well, I've seen photographs on your website, sauceboss.com, of your studio you're building. And I got to tell you, it looks great. I'm sure it sounds marvelous.
It's amazing. I put a high ceiling in it because of all those studios over the years that I've played in that I really enjoyed had a little bit of room to stretch out, you know. And so it's an amazing sound. And, you know, if it sounds good, it makes you play better. That's my theory anyway.
Well, it seems that that's inspiration. That's what inspiration is. Being a recording engineer, if I don't have the band sounding good, they're not going to be happy. And if they're not happy, nobody's happy. Chase, do you have any questions for Bill?
Yeah. I mean, first, just want to say again, echoing what Bruce was saying, you know, I wasn't that familiar with you until I did a little research for the podcast, but it is, you know, the whole thing that you're doing is very, very cool. And I didn't know about what you're doing with the homeless shelters. And I think that's really just an awesome way of incorporating, you know, your gifts with music and food into something that's beneficial for, the communities around. Like, I don't know that a lot of artists are able to figure out a way to do that. So I really like that. But I guess in terms of question, for me, just advocating on behalf of the students that we may have listening, oftentimes we have people coming in who are musicians themselves, and they're sort of in a process of trying to figure out, what exactly they're doing as a musician with, their career, or, how to progress. And it's definitely worth pointing out that, you were able to kind of implement a totally different skill set outside of music to kind of, leverage a way to, make yourself unique, I guess, in a sense. So I guess I would ask, is there any advice, along those lines of thinking that you would give to other musicians, or, I don't know, any kind of encouragement or anything you'd have to say about that?
Well, kind of like what I was saying is it's kind of the way I do my life, I kind of bump into things. And whenever I'm like for the hot sauce and therefore the gumbo, and then the Planet Gumbo, where I'm doing the homeless shelters and the soup kitchens, I have always, if I like something a whole lot, that's where I spend my time and energy. Because if you're going to do it for a living, it would be a whole lot better if you like it a whole lot. And that's kind of, and particularly for a musician, because if you're not really, like Bruce was saying, if you're not having fun, nobody has fun. And that's basically your main gig. I mean, yeah, you need to study your craft. You need to learn how to do the mechanics of it. But deep down, what it is that's going to get people and to listen to you is what's inside of here. It's your heart and your soul. And that's what people want to hear, whether you're Pablo Casals or the Beatles or the guy on the street corner playing busking in Key West or wherever. They want to see the guy that's actually maybe even taking some risks. And so whenever I play, there'll be one point in the evening when I take a risk that it just over my head. And I always do this to push myself to do more. And, that's kind of, you got to kind of just open up your chest and let them see your heart, Yeah. My college work was in English, and I did that basically so that I could learn how to read and critically, and to learn how to write. And after I got out of college, I tried to forget it all and reinterpret it into a street language and that's why I think the blues is basically what I'm doing. Is a soulful bluesy kind of a thing. Is very, very useful for that. But no matter what, if you're a musician, you need to express. You need to let people know what's inside of your head and what's inside of your heart. And it's demonstrating that in front of them and sharing it with them. It's not just being up on a pedestal and regurgitating what you learned in practice that week,
Sure.
So that's basically what I would suggest, is just go with your heart and do what you want to do. And, it's sometimes, my own experience is, I'm not top of the charts or anything, if you know what I'm saying, but I have followed my own intuition in terms of the kind of music I want to play and the direction I want to take. And it has afforded me a pretty cool existence, being a musician.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly say, you seem really satisfied and very happy with what you've been able to do. So that's a good. I feel like this is a really great example for people to see. That you can do things as a musician. You can do these things that you enjoy. As you say, if you're doing it with like an open heart and kind of demonstrating that.
Yeah.
Well, since we are sponsored by the library, I want to mention that Bill has a book called Blind Boy Billy with songs and recipes in it. And once again, at sauceboss.com, you can find all this information. And it's an exciting book. It's an exciting story.
It's a different kind of a book because there's a recipe, there's an address that you can dial up on your computer while you're reading, and you can actually hear the audio of the songs. And the songs and the recipes and the photographs follow the storyline of my life. So it's my memoir and kind of how I got there musically and culinary wise also. And there's some dynamite recipes in this. My mama was a good cook, I got to tell you.
That sounds good. I'm gonna have to check that out for sure.
This is great. It's been a long time since I've been back in Tallahassee, and
Yeah.
I think that a mutual friend of ours, Noreen Riley, is the one
Yes.
that introduced us.
Yeah.
And I had completely lost track of her, but I think you live in a fairly interesting neighborhood also out there. You want to talk about Peckerwood a little bit?
Well, I didn't name it, okay, and it was a long time ago, a long time before the word Peckerwood had assumed all kind of negativity. It's more of a character kind of a thing, but it's a little community of artists and writers and out in Jefferson County, next to Tallahassee. The only county in Florida with not one single stoplight. That gives you an idea of the dark corner out in the country kind of place it is. And we've been hanging out here for 40 years or so. And it's a beautiful place. North Florida is, I'm from Orlando and I love Orlando, except for the traffic. But it's this was, I came up to go to school here in Tallahassee and never left. So Peckerwood has been a great home for us because it's a lot of free thinkers are out here, and we kind of leave each other alone unless we want to have a little get together.
Yeah, well, that kind of community is something I really miss here in Orlando. That
Yeah,
it seemed to be pervasive.
yeah. There are a few places like that. There's a land co-op here, very similar, which is actually a bigger community. But it's kind of reassuring. Where when I first, you can read a lot of this stuff in the book. And when we first moved out here, it was we were pretty much. I had to build everything from scratch, and a lot of salvaged materials and that kind of thing to build the house and everything. But it's the help that I got from neighbors and from people, and Tallahassee is a smaller community, but it's kind of insulated from the I don't know. It's really comfy and homey. It was great to raise kids here.
Well, Jim, I wondered if you had any more questions or for Bill.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that it was interesting to me to hear Bill talking about kind of this intersection of technique and foundation with just the importance of expressing joy and letting yourself go. I mean, I come from the perspective, I mean, I wrote about concerts and musicians for 20 years, you know, and somewhere along the way, I've started playing in this band. And one of the things that was so interesting to me was to sort of suddenly be looking at it, you know, from the other side of the lens, kind of, because you realize all the little things that are going on during the course of a night of playing, whether there's, you know, a wire that isn't working right, or whether, you know, you're not getting along with somebody, or something didn't go right a second ago. And the importance of putting that out of your mind and moving ahead and keeping that positive energy going, that I've seen it happen personally, where if you get swept up in some little thing, that really is such an important key to being an effective performer and entertainer, that I don't think anybody really realizes, you know, when people are up there, the things that are going on behind you that you're having to sort of cope with it at any particular moment. And I gather for you that might be amplified by the fact that you got to go find rice. And I mean, I loved your stories back in the day of having to, like, you know, you're having to put a meal together and a show, which I thought was always thought was amazing. Anyway.
Well, that's a big challenge for a musician, is because, for one thing, like the Hunter Thompson quote, you know, it's like music is a really, it's not pretty on the business side, if you will, you know. So, you know, you go through all these changes to get it together, and then, oh, okay, it's time to play, you know. And you just have to switch gears and put it out of your mind, and then let it go, you know. And that's kind of the way I do it.
It sounds easy when you say it, but I've learned through experience, and I've been stunned by how important it is, because I just sort of discounted it, I think, before I actually started going out and sort of even in the casual way that we've been doing it, you know, that it does, that you can see it in how an audience reacts. I mean, it's amazing to me how important it is.
A lot of deep breaths. You know, if you're into yoga, that's probably a good thing. Or, you know, some transcendental meditation or something, you know. But just to take a few minutes and relax and center yourself, because this is the tip of the iceberg that is so important to be on for, you know. People don't see what it takes, the hundreds and thousands of hours of, you know, rehearsal or learning your craft and all that. It's, you know, it's an interesting profession.
Well, this seems like a good time to take a listen to one of Bill's tunes, Shiner's Blues.
Charlie was a shiner through and through, way up on the mountain, doing what shiners do. He learned his business early by his mother's side, paid the price so dearly, they laughed and then they cried. Charlie's mother, Molly, had to make her own to have some kind of living till the kids were grown. They put her in the jailhouse, the baby came along. 180 days broke up their happy home. You can't keep the busted, keep all that perfume. I prefer to have a little whiskey to consume. No one can refute me, no one can assume. If you know a better whiskey, let it travel round the room. Charlie was a shiner, shined his whole life through. Except the time he rode the rods and the time he had to do. Had to do some learning when he became a man. Wouldn't have been for trouble, messed up a perfect plan. Weren't for all the running, weren't for the copper still, weren't for all the whiskey stashed up on the hill. All about a woman and a jealous husband's rage. That's how Charlie Williams spent a hard time in a cage. I've been around the country, across the pond, and I'm afraid never had a better drink than the one that Charlie made. Rocking on the front porch, he was kind enough to share. Smoky Mountain whiskey, there's nothing to compare. I've had the finest cognac from the cave where it's cached. I've had Kentucky bourbon, and it will not persuade. I have one and only fine accolade for Charlie Williams and the Shiner blues he played. He knew the lonesome whistle, he knew that lonesome sound from the log train on the mountain and the passengers in town. The riverboat calliope, it made that thing resound. Hate to see the sun go down. You can't keep the bus stations, keep all that perfume. I prefer to have a little whiskey to consume. No one can refute me, no one can assume. If you know a better whiskey, let it travel around the room.
Well, that was Shiner's Blues by the Sauce Boss, Bill Wharton. Gentlemen, I'm so excited that you were both able to join us today.
Yeah, it was great.
I'd like to thank you for joining us on the Reel to Reel podcast from the Melrose Center. I'm your host, Bruce Hensal, joined by my co-host, Chase. We'd like to thank our guests, Jim Abbott and Bill Wharton, the Sauce Boss. Next episode will be featuring a singer-songwriter, Rick Roberts, from the Flying Burrito Brothers and Firefall. We have much more in store coming up on future episodes. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcasting app. Join us next month for another episode with another exclusive look at life behind the board in the music industry. And thanks to Carol Hensel for the theme music.